Hey, everybody, welcome back to another segment of the Black Girl Inspire Her. I am your host, Sheniqua Inspires, and we are delivering all of this goodness, all of this inspiration to everybody. We just so happen to be doing it from a Black girl's perspective. You already know I'm excited, and I stay excited because I look forward to each and every conversations that I have with these dynamic powerhouses that I bring to the stage, and they are going to give you all, but I know for certain it's for me. I know for certain it's for me, but they're going to give some inspiration that hopefully you will be able to glean, because I know I'm be ready and I'm going to take in the goodness. But I am going to just stop carrying on, and I need to bring my sister friend to the stage. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, sis, how's it going?
It is well. It is well. Everyone, I would love for you to meet my sister friend, Nyenye Jordan. We actually met a few years ago. I think this was right before COVID hit. You know, that's where everybody puts their circle of time, circles around COVID. So when you say, oh, it was around COVID time when it first started, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. But we actually met at a nurse conference in the year of 2020, and we remained friends and social media friends and sisters, I like to say, ever since. So I know a little bit about you, but please introduce yourself to the people.
Well, once again, first I just want to say I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here, and Sheniqua has been just a ball of fire and inspiration since I very first met her, and I had to have her book. She was there as a vendor, and of course as a nurse, and I'm a nurse, and I had to have that book, and that book has been an inspiration for me. I even have featured it on some of my lives. I have featured that book, and so it has been an inspiration. But I am Nyenye J. I am your marriage rejuvenation coach. I have been married for 24 years. This year in May will be our 25th year of marriage. And initially when we got married, people said, oh, you too young. I was 23. He was 21. He's a little bit younger than me. So I guess I'm kind of a cougar. I don't know.
A little round, not a whole roar.
Oh, that's right. Just a purr.
Yes.
So through our marriage, we just had issues, situations, both saved, both ministers. And so things didn't go the way I thought they should have went. You know, I had been taught about this Christian marriage and how a husband is supposed to be and what a wife does, and none of that showed up. And so that's what started me on my journey to coaching other folks in their marriage, because I got coaching. I was sat down by a wonderful couple that just began to mentor our marriage, and it was just absolutely amazing. And then God later gave me the call to say, look, this is what I want you to do. So I'm a 3-time co-author. I'm a mother. I'm a daughter, a sister, and a friend. But most of all, I'm a servant of God.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. And I can attest to you being a sister and a friend. You really just bring forth a presence. And I love the way you just show up. And you don't try to be anyone other than yourself. You just show up as Nyenye J, and you're like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm doing. I remember I had an A Better You Wellness Challenge, and you were one of my virtual participants. And we were on this wellness journey together. Girl, you be out for your walk. I'd be on my walk. And we would be getting that wellness together. And one of the things that I love about that, and what it means, is that you are taking the time to put in the work. You are putting in the work to get to where it is that you know you were destined to, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your marriage, whatever you're doing, you are showing up and you're like, God, I'm here. What we doing today? You know?
What we doing? I'm here for it. I'm here for all the things. I'm here for it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I really wanted you to come on, and we're just going to start a conversation. And I love these
Okay.
platforms because
Yes.
this is a conversation between me and a sister friend who I haven't gotten a chance to catch up with in quite some time. So I just happened to hit the record button to bring you all into the conversation. And that's where you're going to get the realness. That's where you're going to
Mhm.
get, the real down to earth inspiration and encouragement when it's just a conversation, a one-on-one conversation. So I'm gonna let y'all listen in as we dive into this. And
Absolutely.
honestly, I think that you could speak from a multitude of areas as it
Mhm.
pertains to inspiration. But I really wanted you to talk to us about healthy relationships. So, if you will, set the stage for us as to, you know what, let's go the opposite way first. Set the stage of what are some of the characteristics, and she's a nurse, so she can relate to this, the signs and the symptoms of
That's right.
unhealthy relationships. So because I want people to be
Mhm.
able to zoom in and to see this right away. I don't want to talk about the glory just yet. But what
Okay.
would be some of the signs and symptoms if someone was in an unhealthy relationship?
Well, when you think about an unhealthy relationship, and once again, we're nurses, so we can kind of see this, and I can see it as me just walking into my patient, or my client, and there's signs. When you look
Mhm,
at a person and they're not doing well, they may be not have the right color, they may look fatigued, they may be sweating, a lot of different things. And it's the same thing in a relationship when you
mhm,
feel uneasy, when something
mm,
just isn't right, when you aren't communicating, when you hate to come home. I
mm,
cannot tell you the times that I pulled up to the driveway and I'm like, you know what? Nope. I'm gonna just sit here for an
mhm,
hour, not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, but an hour. And
mhm.
those are all signs that things are not going right. When you're with somebody and you're not in alignment,
Yeah.
they're going left and you're going right
Mhm,
consistently. And so those are some definite signs that, hey, something is not right here. This is toxic. This is not where I want to be. This is not what I desire. And I think all of us, especially as women, we feel that. We know when we're in that moment. But
yeah.
so many times the red flags are all there. I mean, you called, he didn't call you back for 2 hours. You went over his house, he didn't act happy to see you. All
Mhm,
those things happen, and you like, oh, but he makes six figures, or he lives in a nice neighborhood, or we ignore all of the signs of just being in a toxic, or the person being toxic. And
yeah.
it makes for us being unhealthy, and then we get sick because
Mhm,
we stay a part of this relationship. We keep showing up. And one of the most famous little, and I don't even know who made this saying, but they say
mhm.
if somebody shows you who they are, believe it.
Right, right.
Believe it. But us as women, and I can talk about women because that's all I've been all my life as a woman.
Mhm,
And so many times, even in my past relationships, people showed me, especially
mm,
men, they showed me who they were. And even women, I had some girls I called girlfriends that,
yeah.
I thought were going to be my aces, but they were showing me all the time who they were and what they were about. But because I wanted companionship, I wanted friendship, I wanted to
Mhm,
belong, I wanted, love in all the wrong places,
yeah.
I attached myself. And we attach ourselves to these toxic situations, to these toxic individuals, and we forge this sort of euphoric love that
Mhm,
really amounts to nothing at the end of the day. We are left um, underserved, um, still yearning for something. And you hear people say it,
yeah.
yeah, we've been dating for 5 years, or, I've been knowing them for since I was in kindergarten, but
Mhm,
something missing,
yeah.
something just ain't right. And those are the signs. Those are the signs and symptoms that, hey, this is not a good relationship.
And I think that, especially as women, they always say that women are very emotional beings. Like we look for things, like we're very in touch with our feelings.
Hmm.
But I think sometimes that can be our downfall.
Yep.
Like it could be used to our advantage, but it could also be used as a weapon against us
Yes.
because then we get all up in our
I feel.
feelings. So if you get that morning text or somebody's ready to, to ride with you at the drop of a dime, you get all in your feelings and it feels good. But I think as women, we need to start learning how to use our superpowers, and
Yes.
our emotions can be our superpowers, and really start to use them for the greater good.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I love, we always talk about that vibe,
Hmm.
that energy, right? Talk to us a little bit about how women can use that as our superpowers, and how can they, watch out for certain things and pay attention to certain things. Give us
Right.
some inspiration on that. I know that
You,
was loaded, right?
I think you are 100% hitting the target. And we are emotional beings, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay that we are. That's how God designed us. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's how we use those emotions. And I'm going to give you an example here. Um, Very early in my marriage, when things were kind of getting a little rocky, things weren't going the way we expected. I use my emotions as a tool of manipulation. So every
Mm,
time my husband would say something or do something that I didn't like, the tears would start. Waterfall would start, baby. I'd be, oh my God. And he like, okay. So at first he went for it. At first it was like, oh my God, I gotta, oh, she upset. Oh, let me see, let me meet with her. And so whatever I wanted at that point, I knew he was gonna deliver. But
mhm.
like I said, it became manipulation.
Yeah,
So after a while, after a couple of years of doing this, he like, wait a minute. Nah, I was born at night, but
yeah,
it wasn't last night.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
manipulation or whatever.
yeah,
And so he figured it out that look, she just crying to get what she want.
yeah,
She may not even really be upset about this, but she knows I'm gonna stop everything that I'm doing and I'm going to meet her need. And manipulation is not a good
yes.
thing to enter into a marriage. If you
Mhm,
gotta manipulate your way in a marriage or relationship, period,
mhm.
that's not the way to go. And so
Yes.
how we can use that, we had a conversation and he said, baby, some things you need to take your emotions out of. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you stop being an emotional person, but you don't make decisions based on those emotions. Because what do emotions do? They change.
Yes.
They change. So how I felt at 23 when we first entered the marriage was definitely not how I felt at 32 in the marriage. So
Mhm.
those things change. So you don't want to make permanent decisions based
Yeah.
on things that change, variables,
Yes.
right? And so what we can do though is we can be informed about what we're doing. We have to be open and honest with ourselves. And why am I feeling how I'm feeling? How
Mhm.
can I use this to my betterment? How can I look at this situation in its wholeness and say, you know
Yes.
what? This is what needs to be done. Even though I'm upset, even though I'm angry, even though I feel disappointed, let me look at the situation in its wholeness and see how can I make this better? How can we move on from this? Or is this worth moving on?
Yes.
And it's that type of honesty. It's really self-examination.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to look at the man in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
hey, I need to change. I
Mhm.
need to change. I need to do something differently. That was hard for me because I came from this Christian background. And really, I mean, I'm gonna just be transparent. I
Yeah.
felt like I was older, I knew more, I had been around the block a little bit, what I said went, you know.
Mm.
And so I had to get a point to realize that this was a partnership.
Yeah.
This was not a dictatorship. And
Yes.
so we both had to learn and grow. And so, when it comes to our emotions, it's okay to be emotional, but there's a time and there's a place for everything. And you really got to look at the totality of the situation and make an informed and truthful, honest decision about where you go next and what you do next.
Woo, woo, woo. So many nuggets, so many nuggets. I hope you guys have your nets and you are catching them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Listen, you started out with this word, and when you said it, my spirit leapt. It was just like, whoa, here we go. And it was about things not going as expected. So
Mhm.
the two of you entered this marriage and you had this picture in your head and you thought it was going to be like Jack and Jill,
Mhm.
Hansel and Gretel. Like you just
Mhm.
had this fairy tale
Yes.
story painted out, and then things didn't go as
Mhm.
expected. So
Yeah.
it is about that, releasing yourself from the expected
Mhm.
and expecting God to show up no matter what it looks like. So I'm
Right.
gonna want you to touch on that just in just a minute. But something else that you said, and take note of this, do mental notes because I'm sorry, as it comes to me, I just gotta pour it out, right?
Come on with it.
So we're gonna handle that. What to do with the unexpected. We're gonna handle that in a moment. But
Okay.
then you also said about the manipulation, right?
Mm.
That is a lethal tool in any relationship, whether it's spousal, like in a marriage, whether it's in a friendship, because sometimes you can have friends that
Yes.
manipulate you as
Oh,
well,
yes. Yes.
right? They want you
Yes.
around because you're the one that drives.
Okay.
They only invited you
Come on.
because you the one that don't drink, and they know they gonna want to go out and have a good time. So
Come on.
you gonna be the designated. So
Yep.
sometimes
Been there.
friendships can be manipulative as
Mhm.
well.
Oh, yeah.
And dare I say that parent-child relationship too.
Yes.
There
Yes.
can be some really heavy manipulation going on
Yes.
in that realm where either party, whether it's the parent puts this guilt trip on the child or
Yes.
the child putting this guilt trip on the parent. So I'm
Mhm.
going to want you to dip back in and talk about that manipulation, but from a parent realm.
Mhm.
And then you said the wholeness, right? That
Yeah.
that looking at it, so you got to step back
Yes.
and you got to look at the wholeness. That
Wholeness.
means the full picture, you
Mm.
guys,
That's it.
not just what you think, because that's where the disconnect in relationships come,
Exactly.
is because everybody's only looking at it from the
There.
vantage point of themselves.
Woo. Yes, Lord.
And sometimes they think they're big girls, right? Because I'm sorry, women, I'm coming for you. But sometimes you think you being a big girl, you done hyped up your big girl panties, and
Come
you're like,
on.
no, I'm thinking in it from his point of view, but you done gave the brother the point of view. So you're
Exactly.
thinking about his point of view, but it's the point of view, not what he's telling you, but the one you think he should have.
That's it. Come on. You done summed it all up. All right. Well, I see y'all later.
So I know that's loaded. I
Thank
know, but it was just so good. And I love when I have
you.
guests that just get me fired
Yes.
up because
Yes.
I take my inspiration from it. So let's rewind, selector, and get us back to that first word. So those are your three words: unexpected, what was it? Unexpected, the wholeness, and that the manipulation in the middle there. So I want the manipulation and the parent-child relationship in the middle, and then we're gonna sum it up with that wholeness. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So let's talk about accepting or being open to the unexpected. Give us some inspiration around that, please.
um, what I really want to say about the unexpected is sometimes we have unreal expectations. And
There
so
you go.
your expectations have to, and for me, they have to align with the word of God. And
Yes.
so I don't expect no more than what
Mhm.
God says should be there. And I'm gonna tell you, for me personally, I expect it from people, not just my husband, but from friendships, from my parents, things that really were not even they didn't even have a capacity to give.
Wow.
What I was expecting from them is what I should have been getting from the Father. It was the
Mhm.
relationship that I should have been getting from God. But
Yeah.
no, I wanted it from these people, and specifically my husband. I mean, he could give you a whole testimony about it. I expected him to be my all in all. I really did.
Yeah.
I expected my father, who was, and I'm gonna talk about him more when I talk about manipulation. But he
Mhm.
was a genius. I mean, a genius man. But he succumbed to drugs and other things,
Wow.
and so. But I expected him to be perfect, and I became embarrassed that he was
Mhm.
not perfect, that he was not, because I had put him up on this pedestal.
Yeah.
I expected certain things of my mother, and for a long time I was embarrassed to her because to me she wasn't the woman that she should have been in her marriage. And I mean, it's just a whole cycle that the
Yeah.
enemy takes you through when you have these unrealistic expectations. When you
Mhm.
put people, and people don't always ask to be on pedestals. Sometimes
Come
we
on.
place people on pedestals
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily ask for it, but
Mhm.
our eyesight, we see through the glass darkly. And so
Yeah.
we make up these scenarios and these situations that never even were meant to be, right? And so when you talk about the unexpected, I walked into my marriage thinking this guy was going to solve every problem,
Mhm.
every wrong that was done in my childhood, every trauma and pain that I had ever experienced. He was going to heal all of that. And we were going to be happily ever after with the white picket fence and the little
Mhm.
dog and, our 2.5 children, and all
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
things. And really what I did is I blindsided him. I
Mm.
absolutely knocked him up against his head. And he, I did not sign up for this. And,
Yeah.
and, and the first incident that we had, it was shortly after we got married, and I had made this dinner. I had the candles going. We didn't have at the time, we just had our one daughter, and she was gone. And so he came home, and now, mind you, I ain't said nothing. I didn't even work this up. Like, he didn't expect nothing. So he come in, and he like, whoa, okay. We having dinner. Okay, this is nice. The food is good. Honey, I done got a negligee that I got in the room. I'm ready, right? I'm ready.
Mhm.
So he eat his food. He said, okay, I'm going over to the neighborhood with the boys. I'll be back. Never once did I open my mouth and say, baby, why I playing this. I said, okay.
Mm.
Went downstairs, he got in the car, and he left.
Wow.
I had a full out temper tantrum. I
Wow.
cried. I hollered. I called my friends. I called my auntie. I rolled around on the floor. He don't love me. He don't care nothing about us.
Mm.
Mind you, this dude had no
No idea.
clue.
Wow.
No clue.
Mhm.
This was our first time even living together. We
Okay.
had just moved into this house together. And so he had no idea. I did not communicate. And it from that, when he came home, honey, I showed my tail. Uh, and we're not gonna get into that. But anyway, we survived. We survived. But it just showed me how even as a woman,
Yeah.
you can be very manipulative. You can be dishonest with yourself. It begins with
Mhm.
yourself. If I had to just be honest with myself first and then communicated with him,
Yeah.
we could have had a whole nother outcome.
Yeah.
But because I didn't look at the whole picture, because I assumed, and you
Mhm.
know what they say, assuming
Yeah.
does, um,
Yeah.
it didn't end up good. And so that was the beginning of a lot of false expectations within my relationship. And
Wow.
then as far as the manipulation with my father, because he did have an instance where a period of years where he was an addict, there was a lot of manipulation. There was a
Mm.
lot of lying and doing things behind our back. And I mean, and I felt so because he was this genius, because in the neighborhood he tutored kids. He got kids through college. He
Wow.
took college exams for people. I mean, he was just a genius. He was able to complete 12th grade in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And so I looked up to this man. I put him on a pedestal. He carried his family. When his father left their family, he carried his mother. He made sure she had everything. He worked at Chrysler. Back in the 80s, he was making $80,000 and $90,000 a year. So I felt like we were the Huxtables, really.
Okay.
But
Uh-huh.
once his drug addiction came,
Wow.
he manipulated. He made us feel like I afforded you this life. So now when you get
Mm.
your check, you need to have my money. You need to
Yeah.
pay me. I need at least half of your check, every check. Everything. When my mother used to always say, he was E.F. Hutton, honey. When he talked, we listened. We He manipulated us into
Yeah.
doing everything that he thought should be done. I took that same manipulation into my relationships.
Mm.
That very same
Mhm.
manipulation. I was taught. I learned from one of the best.
Yeah.
And I took it right on into my relationships. And it was a recipe for disaster. It was
Yeah.
a recipe for disaster. So it wasn't until one day in my living room, this was after being married probably about 15 years, maybe somewhere in between 10 and 15 years, I had an experience with God in my living room. I was tired. I was sick and tired I was tired of me. I was tired of my husband. My father
Mhm.
had since gotten himself together. He wasn't on drugs anymore. And so he was working on his own. Him and my mom were working on their own situation. But I was just tired. I was absolutely tired. And I was living a lie. We were going to
Mm.
church every Sunday. We were holding hands. We were smiling. At this point, both of us are ministers. And so we're preaching, we're teaching, we're doing all the things. But when I got home, I was empty. I
Mm.
was empty. I was void. I had a big hole in my heart. I hated everybody, myself, my husband. I was beginning to dislike the kids. I just,
Tell the truth. Come on with it.
for real, I would come and I would sit in my driveway and then it started physically making me sick. Where I was having episodes where I would just lose the ability to use my arm. I can remember specifically one day he had to carry me out of the car. My
Wow.
body would not move. And so one day in my living room, I smelled and I to this day I say it was jasmine is what I smelled. I've never actually smelled jasmine. I don't know if you smelled it before, but I just feel like this was jasmine. It was purple.
Okay.
It's like I envisioned like a
Yeah.
purple like smoke. So I'm assuming one day I'm gonna smell some real jasmine.
Smells. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got to do that. But I was in my living room and I just cried out to the Lord. I cried out to
Mm.
him and I'm like, I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good daughter. I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good
Mm.
minister. Lord, I need some answers. Either take me out of this misery
Mm.
or show me what to do. And
Mm.
that is when my journey into wholeness started. And I'm going to try not to cry or
Mm.
get emotional.
Mm.
But
Mm.
let me tell you something. My children, at the time that this happened, my children were upstairs asleep. Um, and I was in the living room downstairs. And I screamed out, and I'm talking about audibly screamed out.
Mhm.
To this day, my kids never woke up. They never heard
Wow.
anything, nothing.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, me and God just began to have a conversation. And he said, just like you smell this jasmine, that's how sweet you are to me. That's how
Mm.
much I love you. Your aroma. You think you have fallen, but I'm saying, baby, I'm getting you back up, even right now. And I'm telling you, he gave me a peace. Oh my God. He
Mm.
said, and it is not about your husband. You keep putting, and not to say that my husband had this, both of us had did some things against the marriage. But he said, I'm gonna start with you. It
Mm.
starts with you. He says, you dictate the tone in this house. He says that you are the help me. He said, and if you look that up in Hebrew, it's two words. It's Ezer, and the other one, I never pronounce it up. It's Kenigo. And
Okay.
what it means is your rescue. You are
Mm.
his rescue. And so when
Wow.
I put you in his life, you wouldn't want to say, when I met my husband, he knew God, but he wasn't in church. He said, and I put you with him for a purpose, a plan. There's a ministry here. He said, but you veered all off. You did a
Mm.
whole bunch of other stuff. And it
Mm.
was none of it saved folk stuff. He
Right.
said, but I gotta work on you. And he began that day, that evening actually, working on me. And I'm telling you, he gave me a peace. that surpassed all my understanding. And my husband was actually at the casino that night. And when he came home, he like, baby, you smell something in here? He like, something different in here. What's going on? I'm like, honey, just come lay down. I'm like, God
Mm-hmm.
is good. God, he like, yeah, God good. But what's been going on in here? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he
Mm-hmm.
knew something. And I mean, from that point on, we just started having these experiences.
Yeah.
Experiences with God. Some of them he would have by himself, some we would have together, but it just absolutely changed
Mm.
the dimensions of our marriage, the dimensions of our. I started sloughing off some friendships.
Yes.
I began to speak differently with my father and with my mother. It changed our whole world. I was actually filing for divorce. I had
Wow.
a divorce, and when I was going to file, because we didn't actually file the papers, the lawyer said, "No, I can't do this."
Hmm.
I'm like, excuse me, sir. Oh, I pay for these
Wow.
services. He like, nah, I can't do it. He was like, y'all supposed to be together.
Mm, mm,
I'm like,
mm.
I can't even get a divorce. I want a divorce. I cannot even. What is this? Who is this man?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so it did not happen. And not to say that everything got just perfect then. I mean, we went through a process. It was like a 7-year process that we just, it was good times, it was bad times. But
Mm-hmm.
all the time, God was just taking us through the process. And I learned that people evolve.
They do.
People evolve, people change. He was not that man that I married when he was 21 years old. He was not
Yeah.
that little boy that was excited about being with a girl that was in college while he was still
Yeah.
in high school. He had evolved, he had matured, and I was failing to allow the relationship to
There you
mature.
go. There you
To
go.
get better. I wanted us to still be these two little puppy love people, but we had responsibilities. We had
Mm-hmm.
children. We had
Yeah.
bills. We had a whole house.
Yeah.
We had cars. We had, all of these things. And so relationships have to evolve. You cannot stay stagnant. There has to be some growth, else it'll die
Yeah.
altogether. It will die altogether. And so I thank God, even though we were on life support,
Mm.
God did CPR, and
Yes.
we were able to where we are today, baby. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Listen, I love how I be watching you on social media and you just be gushing over your man. You to think that y'all just met, y'all just hooked up. She stayed gushing over her boo. She got his picture up and she
That's
drooling all
it.
over it.
Yeah,
And I
they
think
do.
that's beautiful. I
Yep.
think it's beautiful and it should be done. And one of the things, I mean, there were so many nuggets in that as well, but I try not to make my list because otherwise we're going to be here for 2 days and a half, right? We'll be here for a little
I
more than a
hear you.
little bit.
That's right. Mhm.
What I'm gathering that you're saying is likened to when you're growing a flower or a
Yes.
plant. There has to be some pruning. There
Yes.
also has to be some space
Yes.
allotted
Yes.
for the growth and for
Mm,
the evolution of each individual.
that's right.
And again, as it pertains to marriage, so for the husband and the wife, if
Yeah.
it's a friendship, because a lot of times when we are in these friendships, we're what's
Mhm.
known as trauma bonded,
Yes.
where whatever we were
Absolutely.
going through, whether we were trying to survive high school or we both were dating the same guy, like
Yeah.
whatever the issue
Absolutely.
was, you get
Absolutely.
bonded and connected to that. But what tends to happen is that you don't allow the person to grow from that, and
Yes.
so you still have those expectations, those unrealistic
Yes.
expectations that
Absolutely.
they're supposed to still be the angry black woman
Yes.
or the
Yes.
jilted lover, like they're supposed to still stay there, and they're
Yes.
like, no, I need room to breathe, I need room to grow
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
to turn into a new creation. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
loved how
Absolutely.
you summed it all up and you use your life as an example. And I believe God is he is able. I know, it's not even that I believe.
Yes.
I know that
Yeah.
he is able to do the great work of pruning if
Yes.
we allow
If
him
we allow him.
to. If we
That's
allow
right.
him to.
That's right.
Before we go, I do want to touch upon a word that you said, and it was one of my trigger words because I often like to speak on it. And you spoke about capacity.
Mm.
You talked about capacity. So inspire us just a little bit about people's capacity and getting us prepared to either be in acceptance of it or exit stage left. Like, what is it
Yes.
that we need to do, right? So gear us up
Yeah.
a little bit about this capacity.
Now, when you and I love how even started with that.
Hmm.
Either accept it or exit
Hmm.
stage left. Let me tell you something. People, all of us are different. We all have different finger prints, and
Yeah.
God has made us all unique, right? We tend to, society tends to just put people in a basket. Oh, she was molested, so this is what she thinks about that.
Hmm.
Oh, this happened to them, so they were in poverty, they're rich, so they think this way. And it's not like that. There are some rich people with $1 million in their bank account that have a
Hmm.
poverty mindset.
Yep.
And so you have to get to know people. You have to develop relationship with them in order to know what their capacity is. Believe it or not, because some people have not uh, reached their spiritual person, they have not enlightened their soul. They don't have the capacity to love.
Hmm.
Not to say that it won't happen one day, but are you willing to
There you
stay
go.
there and wait?
Hmm.
One thing key for my marriage, for us getting things back in order, was to see exactly where we are. And am I willing to go further with this? Are we willing to do the work? You said that when we first started out. It's about doing the work. And
Hmm.
so if my husband had come to me and said, you know what? I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And,
Hmm.
I don't want to continue this. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have, three at the time we had 3 kids, but this is just not what I want anymore.
Hmm.
Let me tell you something. There would have been a time when if he had said that, I would have fell on the floor. I would have started crying. Once again, I'm gonna start that manipulation
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
I really
Uh-huh.
want him to stay, right? But I had got to a point where it was whatever you say, baby. If you say you want to go, honey, get your stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
going to use your kids as no pawn. You can
Yeah.
see them whenever. Matter of fact, if you want to take them starting out, go on and take them
Come
with you.
on. Take
I
your
can
turn
do
first.
visitation.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. Let it
Right.
let it do what it do. And
Uh-huh.
I to come to that place of wholeness. You have to come to that place of peace to recognize somebody, maybe he wasn't capable of loving me the way that I need to be loved. See, it's two things that we had to know. One, what was my desire? How did I need to be loved? And
Hmm.
two, is he capable of delivering that?
Hmm.
And when we both decided that yes, he is capable, and not only is he able, but he's willing. He's
Yes.
willing. And so now we can start picking up the broken pieces. Now we can let God do the work. Now we can get in alignment. But so many times, and it pains me to say this, but I used to be there too. We want to make people have capacity for us.
Hmm.
We want them, well, it's what I want. I love him.
Hmm. Hmm.
Baby, baby. That's why you got a lot of side chicken going on. That's why you got people that in front of each other be
Facts.
friends, but behind her back, I talk about her.
Hmm.
Even people in their careers. I had
Yeah.
to here recently, I have taken a step back from nursing because I know that God is moving me, even though I'll always be a nurse.
Hmm.
He is using me in a different capacity. But
Yeah.
we are so used to what is comfortable and what is
Hmm.
convenient. Right now, it's convenient to be a nurse. I can make money,
Yeah.
baby. The
Yeah.
money is there. But is that in alignment with what God wants
Right.
to do with me right now? Is that what He's building in me right now? And so sometimes when the capacity is that there, we try to forge it because we're
Hmm.
familiar. I
Hmm.
want dude to stay in my life because shoot, we've been together for 5 years.
Yeah.
Or we
Yeah.
have 2 kids together. Let me tell you, at that point, it didn't matter that we had the 3 kids. It didn't matter. We had a whole house we were buying. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't matter that we had a mortgage payment. What does God want me to do at this point? What is an alignment? And can he deliver? If this is the man for me, if this is who
Mm-hmm.
God wants me, then he will be able to deliver what I need. And not only him deliver, but am
Mm-hmm.
I going to deliver? Am
Yes.
I going to do the work? Am I going to use manipulation, or am I going to allow God to really heal us from the inside out? Am I going to be vulnerable because it took a lot of vulnerable days? Or am I just going to keep my cape on 24/7 and
And
and,
pretend like you got it.
and
Yeah.
pretend like we had
Mm.
been doing for so long because we thought that's
Wow.
what people wanted to see, and
Mm-hmm.
it was familiar. I had
Yeah.
seen my parents at different points in their marriage pretend. We've
Mm-hmm.
all seen it. You've seen that supervisor that didn't really like the boss ahead of them, and they
Yep.
when they come in, you know how state come. We get all
Yep.
together, honey.
Yep.
We fix up everything, girl. Band-aids everywhere. If they
Yeah.
blow on this building, it'll fall apart. But we done
Mm-hmm.
put band-aids everywhere because state is in the building.
Yeah.
And when state leave, everything just fall back like,
Yeah.
oh, it fall. And that's the same thing we do in our relationships. We
Yeah.
put band-aids all over it. Honey, we putting crazy glue. Like that other
Mm-hmm.
girl, we putting Gorilla Glue on some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
have no
Silly
Gorilla Glue
putty and
on it.
everything in between.
All
Yep.
sorts of
Yeah.
things. And in all actuality, after a while, it's gonna fall apart because it doesn't have the capacity to do what you want it to do.
Right. There's no strong foundation. Man,
Nope.
I love it. And like I said, we can go on and on.
Yes.
I got one quick question. I gotta ask you, this one quick question. And you make it real like a, 60-second kind of a thing.
Okay.
I need you to give some inspiration, some words of comfort to those individuals. They're sitting here, they're watching this, and they are in agreement that it is pruning season. Now, I'm not saying, and I don't really want you to speak on the marriage side because I don't want anybody to think that we're telling them to leave their marriage, right?
Right.
You're gonna have to connect with Nyenye and get some counseling and really make that decision. But
Right.
I did hear you say that in order for your marriage to evolve, you even had to cut some friendships
Yeah.
off. So
Absolutely.
I know there's some people who they're not even wavering. Like they are right here and they're like, I know I gotta let some people go. Can you just offer some words of comfort for people who need to accept or they know it's their pruning season? Like give them some comfort on that.
What I would say to them is trouble don't last always.
Mm-hmm.
Joy cometh in the morning. Accept it. Accept it. Surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Surrender. Surrender. Surrender to that season. Y'all, seasons change.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always stay in a storm. It don't
Right.
last always. But if you surrender now, what you'll get in the end, when spring comes, when the
Mm-hmm.
harvest time,
Yeah.
honey, you'll get abundance.
Yes.
You'll get
Yes.
more than enough. So surrender right now. Accept it right now. Go through it right now in the morning.
Woo! I love it. I
Oh,
love
thank
it.
you,
I
Jesus.
love it. That was so good. You guys know I just want to keep going and going and going. But that just simply means that we definitely have to come back at another time to
Yes,
continue a conversation, to
absolutely.
get into more areas. But
Yes,
it was so, so good having you.
yes.
Listen, is there anything that you're working on? I got your social media handles here. I want to make certain everybody's checking out the info in the description. But anything that you're working on that you want to, invite the people to or let them know about?
Well, I'm glad you said that. I have a new launch. It's a 6 video series on Heal Your Marriage. And I know you're saying, well, I'm not married. But any relationship that you're in, this video series can absolutely touch your marriage. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it on Instagram. My links to it. You can get on my email list and get all the information about it. You can go to my website. I'm telling you, these 6 videos, I mean, and they're about an hour a piece. They walk you through healing whatever relationship you're going through, healing you first, and then
Mhm.
allowing that healing to transcend into the relationship. It's transformational, absolutely.
I love it. What's that website? Give us the website.
Oh, well, I'll give you my bit.ly because it'll be
Okay.
much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bit.ly /Nyenye J. Just that
All
simple.
right. Yep. That's what we want to see. Because that gets us right where we need to be when we need to be
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to put that on the screen so that everybody can see it. They can write it down. It's also going to be in the description box. So you don't have to
Thank
feel
you.
like you're missing it or anything like that. You'll be able to connect
Absolutely.
because there does need to be a healing. Like the land
Yes.
certainly is in need of healing. And I
Yes.
believe if we start with relationships, that we can apply that to everywhere
Yes.
in our lives, in
Absolutely.
our businesses, in the
Absolutely.
corporations, in the world itself. So it definitely has to start somewhere. So, sis, I thank
Absolutely.
you so much for
Thank
being my
you for
special
having me.
guest on today. Listen, you guys, I'm speechless. I am speechless. You all know it was good, good, and I hope you've got all the notes. And if not, don't feel shame. Nobody's going to judge you. Go back and watch it again and again so that you don't miss an ounce of it. So again, I am Sheniqua Inspires, and I thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's segment of the Black Girl Inspire Her, where we are bringing forth that inspiration for everyone. We just so happen to be doing it from a Black girl's perspective. But listen, while you're here on my YouTube channel, make certain you check out the other videos in the series. I've got the Black Girl Encourage Her, I got the Black Girl Motivate Her, and don't forget my podcast, Sisterly Sundays podcast, is on there as well. So you've got a plethora of videos to watch, to gain some nuggets from. And most importantly, I want you to make certain that you stay encouraged, that you stay enlightened, and that you always feel that there is hope just around the corner. So until next time, you all have an amazing rest of your evening, and I'll see you again on the next video. God bless.